Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the BOCC. Would you all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First thing we have on our agenda today is our grants application update with Miss Glaser. Come on down, Nichole.
Okay, I'm prepared to give you updates on all the grants that are either pending or have been promised, if you'd like. So would you like to hear the ones that are pending first?
Yeah, let's go with the ones that are pending, and then,
Okay.
so is that going to be for this cycle that just is ending this week, or is that going to be for the next cycle?
So there's
in
different
March?
cycles for different grants, and I probably don't have the exact information on all of the cycles for each
Okay.
of them, but let me know what you need more information about, and I'll
Okay.
take note of that. So on May 9th, we submitted a proposal, and we received an intent for them to award it to us on the 28th of July, and that is for a behavioral safety net grant through the Behavioral Health Administration. That grant is for $386,000, around $386,014 here. And that one is for the Community Intervention Program.
Mhm.
And so that one will provide funding as soon as we get the contract signed, which I'm guessing will probably be about September. It'll go through next June 30th. And so that'll provide complete funding for staff and for fuel for that team. Any questions on what that one's for?
No, I think Spratlin's given that one to us. We've actually
You're good
read it
on
and
that?
kind of went over it.
Yeah.
We actually talked to Hickenlooper
Great.
last Wednesday night, because he's one of the ones that basically put Montezuma County in there for us, so
Yeah.
I think we're pretty well up to speed on that one.
Okay, and so just to follow up with that one for the congressionally directed spending is
Mhm.
still out there, and that's the one that's being written into a bill and will be voted on by Congress coming up. So we hope to hear back on that very soon.
So the three applications that we submitted for the CDS,
Mhm.
the free Adify, the behavioral health, and the,
It was for a benefit cost analysis for the Pass to Mesa Verde.
where do we stand on those, or do we?
Those two were not
Okay.
written in. So, yeah, Bonnie wrote the one for the Free Adify project, and then I submitted the BCA one, so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, go ahead.
Okay, so another two that we received were the multimodal options funds grants that James Dietrich, the Natural Resource Director, and I co-wrote. And those are both state and federal. And those totaled $2,016,269. And one of them will go toward a match for the Federal Highway Administration FLAP grant. And that one funded the construction of Mancos to Mesa Verde side of Pass to Mesa Verde. So that should be able to be built at least soft surface by 2026 from Mancos to Mesa Verde. And then that one's currently at 30% design. And then the other grant through MMOF is funding the preliminary planning and engineering for the side from Mesa Verde to Cortez. So we're calling that one side B, basically. So that one is promised to us. So those are the two that are firm. And then we have an application pending for the EDA State Outdoor Recreation Grant, and the county promised a $10,000 match on that one. That proposal is for the amount of $98,759. And that was submitted June 30th, and it's awaiting review. It had to go through the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, and then their recommendations are getting forwarded on to the Economic Development Administration. And so we don't know exactly when we'll hear back on that, but those recommendations have been forwarded, and we don't know if we were recommended, but we were sent some follow-up questions on that, so that was always promising when you do receive some questions. So that one is pending, and then we, in partnership with our economic development team from the county, proposed a project to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, or CHAFA, to create the Montezuma County Collaborative. And that will promote community leadership training and coalition building around the strategic areas that are outlined in our DOLA Roadmaps to Resiliency and Recovery project. And those strategic areas, there'll be coalitions built around those of community members and community leaders in order to implement strategies. And that project is a 2-year project in the amount of $124,000.
And when is the date on that?
You know, we don't have an exact date. We submitted it August 16th, and we've been in conversations with Chris Lopez, who's the person with us on that, and he's been very helpful in collaborating with us on that. So he just has to run it up the ladder, and then we're good to go on that.
So probably the end of October.
Oh, gosh,
Typically?
no. Oh, gosh, no, we'll find out sometime in September. And
Oh,
then
wow.
that one is just, it's a very easy one to manage. That one, the money comes in a lump sum, and Chris will be really involved in that project with us. And we'll be putting people through leadership training and then plugging them into coalitions. So we'll develop leaders in our community, and anybody in the community will have an opportunity to go through some training on that.
Okay.
That is all I have written down right at the moment. And then as of today, I'm working on the grant for the Alkali Canyon Bridge. So I've got a lot of documents, and I've been corresponding with CDOT and working on what we can do to get that bridge project approved.
Okay.
And then also working on the solar for the fairgrounds that Justin will talk more about.
Right, which those are probably, I guess, as far as our knowledge, those would be the two biggest ones that would be in the bucket next, because of, one, the alkali, well, they're actually both shovel ready. It's just a matter of if we can get the funding for them. The county has done a lot of in-kind work already out at Alkali Creek last winter and this spring to reduce the cost. But because of where we were at with COVID, we're basically 2 years behind of getting this put out to where it should have been, or at least a year. So the prices have elevated tremendously.
Right.
So this is the one that I had talked about last week that Eric sent out. As soon as I got it, I sent it to you guys, so thank you.
Yeah, and I've corresponded with Road and Bridge and gotten a form filled out from them requesting help with that. So got lots of good information I've been reviewing this morning.
And they'll have everything along with our engineer, Bechtel Engineering. All the information is there, and it's, like I said, it's ready to go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, and then with the solar grant that I'm looking at, it's the Renewable and Energy Impact Fund, I believe is what it's called, or initiative. And that one, the date on the next application period that we'll be able to be eligible for would be in February. So I'll be collaborating with you guys and with Shaw Solar, and hopefully getting some information. And I've reached out to the town of Dolores, because I believe that they've gotten that grant before, and hopefully I can get a little bit of assistance / advice from others on that one and get that submitted. But we've already reached out to Patrick Rondinelli from DOLA, and he's been emailing back and forth with us about questions he had about our approach on that. So we are in process.
So I did answer the questions that you had, obviously, the other day. That would just be a net zero. We're not doing anything.
With battery storage.
Yeah, no battery storage, nothing like that. When we first looked at that, that's all that is just to become a net zero.
Yeah.
And it would be just for those 2 meters of the actual fairgrounds, and the shop building is basically what that system was designed for.
And it's just to cover the cost of power at the fairgrounds, correct?
Well, it's not even the entire fairground, so I want that to be real specific,
Okay.
that it's just the big barn, and it would be the maintenance, I guess, is that what you call it, Justin? The maintenance shop where we have all of our freezers to the southwest. Those were really the only 2 meters when we did the study on the meters that really warranted solar, because there's so much, or there's so little draw on the barns down below that it wasn't even really a consideration at that point in time.
Okay. And I believe that the questions we've been getting from Patrick Rondinelli really have to do with checking the resiliency criteria that DOLA has out. So I'm not sure how favorable it is that we're not going to have battery storage. I think he was probably hinting at, since we're using that as a place to evacuate to in emergencies, are we going to be able to keep the power on during emergencies and that kind of thing. So I'll have to see what he says about that, but we'll do what we can with the project.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for me on these?
So I guess just to follow that up, I guess my bad, because when we had talked to Patrick last Friday, he just said, just get something to me right away, because he's been aware of this project for several years with us now.
Yeah, it probably is just about, well, he said that that this grant follows the same Energy Impact Assistance Fund's grant cycle. So if there is something different that he has communicated with you, I definitely would want to know. But that deadline of September 1st is just not.
So this one is
feasible.
February 1st? Or
I believe February 3rd, I think, is
So
the deadline for it.
you have
So
plenty, you got
a great
gobs
amount of
of
time to
time.
do that. That gives me a good amount of time to work on the roads bridge one
Okay.
for right now, and then other things that come in from other departments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the only 2 that we have right now going forth.
We have those 2 plus, the ones we've applied for already that we're waiting to hear back on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other
Question?
questions?
Last Tuesday night, down at Toyac, I was speaking with Manuel Hart's wife, and she says there's some sort of a grant writing class or program out at the First National Bank. I think it's tomorrow night, but I don't,
Okay.
she didn't have all the specifics on it, so you might go nosing around.
Okay. Great.
And if you would like, you might just scoot over and we'll bring Justin up, because there might be questions back and forth that we actually have to, you can grab this other mic too, Nicole. Just in case you need it. Yeah. All right. Next on our agenda, we have a conversation with Justin McGuire for the Fairgrounds Interconnection study. So go ahead, Justin.
So this was something that was, I guess, needed based off of what Empire had told us after we had looked into this, or after Shaw had looked into this with them. So Empire kind of said we needed to do a study on this, and this is something that they had done from a engineering consultant, I believe, out of Lakewood. So they've kind of gave us this report, and we just got it here a while back, and from what I read in it, it looks like the only thing that we really need to worry about, or that Empire would need to worry about a little bit, would be the harmonics out there. There might be an issue with that on the line, but other than that, everything else, it seems like in this study, there doesn't seem to be an issue with the interconnection,
Right.
from what I
If you-
gather.
If you want to go all the way, slide all the way down to page 8, where they talk about that in the conclusion, they talk about that harmonics.
Yes.
If you read that conclusion, the way I read it,
not
it's
really.
just I think is all he's saying is that it could at some time be a potential, but it's not necessarily anything that we need to really be concerned about at this point in time, is the way I read it. So commissioners, I don't know what you guys think.
That's the way I read it.
because it's all they're doing is recommending that they're monitored.
Yeah, and I think they're saying if they start to see an issue, then they would have them put some sort of thing on there to monitor the system
Yeah.
and see if there's anything that we would have to do later on, I guess. But they're not expecting any faults.
So, actually it was, I wish our bills were like this, 8 pages that you could actually read
Yeah.
and get through it pretty quickly and simply. And then
Instead of 508.
a 2-paragraph conclusion, which some of the stuff in there I didn't understand, but, so it sounds like we've done everything now, we've waited our 2-year period of time, we've gotten, our different reads, so we know exactly where our consumption is. And then, now we've gotten this study done that Empire Electric needed. And so now we have a green light. We should have nothing else, no other hurdles to jump. And then that would then, again, like I said, it's just for the 2, it's all gonna go on the big barn, but it would actually feed the maintenance building and the arena.
So their thought was to take that meter off of our maintenance building then, and just combined it? Is that kind of what they were?
No, the way I understand it,
No.
they all feed behind
Oh, okay.
the meter. So if you look at that diagram that Shaw Solar had sent over, they're 2 separate systems, but they're all on the barn. So the big one to the north would feed the main arena, and the smaller one to the south is still on the main arena roof, because that's where it gets the best sunlight. It's the highest, and they put it on both sides. That would then feed back into the behind the meter at the shop,
Yeah.
whatever
yeah.
you call it. So that's how I understood it, was they're both
That's
behind the
right.
meter
Yeah.
Okay.
systems. Do you have that diagram?
I don't have that diagram, I just got the one that's inside that, thing there, but I don't think it really shows kind of what you're talking about there.
I can forward that to you, Nicole. Do you need that too, or?
The information you have.
Okay.
That would be great.
Now it's old, obviously, but it would have to be updated as far as the cost. But the system itself, I'm sure, is not gonna change as far as positioning and or, the size of the meters or the panels.
I'm sure Empire would be grateful if you give them a heads up when you're getting ready to start and what you're gonna do, and
Okay.
that
Oh,
way-
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Shaw, if they're doing it for us, they'll
Just-
obviously
yeah.
be in
Just-
way in
I
communication
always
with
wanna
them.
follow up and make sure.
And I believe this got sent to Shaw, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it did. But I can follow up with Mike over there too
Okay.
and see if he's wanting to move forward on his end or good, so.
Now, are we still looking at the change of the rate class before we do the solar?
Well, so that's a conversation that, Andy Carter came in here probably 4 weeks
4 or 5 months
Joe?
ago.
When
Which
Andy
one?
Carter came in and did a presentation from Empire Electric. So the difference, when we first started this, we had to wait the 18 months to see what the consumption was, to see if we could go from general 3-phase
Phase
to, I think they called it demand 3-phase.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, because of the consumption, because we had a 75 kVA transformer out there, and if our consumption was higher, the transformer had to be changed
You had to
to
go,
meet the requirement because it was pulling too much power. So we've waited that 18 months. It's obviously not high enough to remove that 75 kVA transformer. So he came in, did a presentation to us. It was, gosh, I want to say there was $200 difference
Yeah.
annually to switch it. So in my opinion, gosh, Commissioner, I don't know if you were on board with this yet or not. That might have been still what we were just by ourselves.
I think it was right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
I want to say it was probably just Commissioner Lindsay and I, but I think at that point in time, we kind of decided that if we can get the solar system on to offset it to net zero, there was no real reason to change it, because we're never going to get a demand charge anyway at that point in time. With the upgrades that you've done out there too, Justin, it also lowered the consumption, so.
Yes. And from what I remember, we had to stay under 75 KVA for
Right.
18 months, and that's what we did. And then that was a large power, they called it. That
Yeah,
we-
you
we
go to
can-
a large
yeah,
power charge. yeah.
Exactly.
Large
So-
power, and I think that's what we're on. We're on large power and to general three-phase.
So,
But if we can come back and hit net zero, we're never gonna have, well, I should never say never.
Never say never.
We should have a very slim chance of ever hitting a demand rate on that system.
correct.
That makes sense.
I'll also look that up, Nichole, and I'll send that to you also, Commissioner. I want to say, hey, it might have been right at the first of the
It
year.
could have been.
I do have a couple of documents. That's why I was asking the question. It was a letter from you guys, I think, to Empire requesting
To
the
go
change.
to general three-phase.
Yes.
Yeah, because we wanted to get rid of the large power three-phase.
Mhm.
Because when you look at the demand charges that we get charged on that, they're super significant. And we only went over one time, and it was like one day. But we have to pay for that for the entire year. So that was a reason for that. And when Shaw did that study for us, he's like, hey, if you just move your shows around a little bit and don't put them all in the same month, because we're billed monthly, and spread them out just a little bit more, we'll never hit that. But I think we had 2 shows, Justin,
Well,
that
so
were
what the-
pretty close together.
When I talked to them on that, what they told me is that's a 15-minute span. So they say
15-minute
in
span.
15 minutes, you can't exceed this demand. So it really doesn't matter how much you do per month, it's just a 15-minute span. So I guess that that was back probably when we had our lights that were pulling a lot more power. We had a lot of vendors, a lot just going, so we had a lot of demand for 15 minutes. And then that's what triggers that on-demand charge. Or from what I gathered from when I was talking to Empire on it. Because I did ask him about the whole, if we did 2 or 3 shows one month, would it hurt us? And they said no. It
It's
was
just
just
15
15-minute
minutes.
period,
Okay.
yep, so.
Anyway,
So,
I'll pull that conversation up and I'll send that to you.
Okay, and I'm just looking at notes. I did talk to Mike Ellis at one point, just to get some clarification on all of the general three-phase and large power and whatnot. He explained to me that half of the bill would be your rate per kilowatt hour, and then half is the demand charge. So if we're covering the rate, but not would it still cover the demand charge, which would be the other half of the bill, if we're getting the solar? That would be my question.
So it would obviously it would cover all of the kilowatt hours for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's why I'm wondering about if we need to switch over still, because he explained that half of the bill is the demand charge. And if that's based on whether it's large power or three-phase, that could be something to consider.
Right.
Just a
We're
question.
no longer large power out there.
So it is,
General,
I think
general
we are.
three phases.
I think we are.
He
We
had
are,
ex-
we
Because
are
we're
still
under-
large
we're
power,
under
right?
75 KVA, so.
well, I guess, so this is just what Mike had understood, or at least what I took notes on. So
Yeah.
again, it's communication, but he said that it was on large power at the fairgrounds, not general three-phase.
And that's why that conversation came to us.
Mhm.
Let me watch that video again also myself,
Okay,
and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And, because we do not have to be on general or, I'm sorry, large power, three-phase. It could go to general, but
General three phases.
that's where Andy came in and gave us that presentation.
Right.
But let me look at it, I'll find it, I'll send it to you, Justin.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then we can make that determination, but we've got plenty of time.
Mhm.
But I will get it to you. I've got
Great.
my notes.
Yeah, I believe the idea was we were gonna switch over when we decided to do the actual solar project.
Mhm.
I don't think it got switched
Because the
over.
demand rate was the big number. I mean,
Right.
that's a big number
Mhm.
for those 2 meters out there. Pretty significant if I remember right.
And if that's based on it being large or three-phase,
General.
it makes sense to take that under consideration and get that fixed at the same time, I would
Yep.
imagine.
Yep.
Okay.
So that answer will be forthcoming.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, lastly, since we're talking about the fairgrounds and power, can we talk about this even though it's not on the agenda?
Yeah,
Talk about what?
Power
this
at
is
the
for,
fairgrounds?
this is for business.
Yeah, I think so.
It's all
I
related.
mean, no
It's all-
no decisions are gonna be made today.
No,
We're
no
talking about,
decisions are gonna
we're
be
talking
made.
about power
It's
at the
power.
fairgrounds, and we've got
Yeah.
Fairgrounds Arena Solar, so.
And it's all basically because I think we have like 6 meters out there, right, Justin, with everything?
6 or 7, something like that.
6 or,
yep.
I mean, there's a
Yep.
lot of meters out there. If you want to explain what you were
Yeah, I
What you were thinking.
talked to Andy, we talked about the transformer out on the pole, it's only 50 kVW.
Mhm.
To upgrade that, it wouldn't put us over what we were, all just discussed.
Yeah, and I verified that as well. Yep.
Yeah, and one of the other problems we may be experiencing is the wire may be too small to carry that load. And that could pop your breakers too.
From the actual meter to the buildings.
Well, from the transformer into the building,
Okay.
into your meter base.
Okay.
So you need to have Empire come out and look at your wire size, make sure that it's,
Okay.
carrying what you need to carry. And if it's all in conduit, it's a little bit to pull and re-pull, but not bad.
But it would be a quick and easy way to upgrade especially if it's
Yeah.
in conduit. Even if it's not in conduit and we have to dig it up, if it's just from the transformer to the meter base, then your circuits that we were talking about last Monday on the south side of the,
Swine barn or.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The south
It'd be-
barn,
It'd be the west side of those barns, but yeah,
Yeah,
I got
right.
you.
then we could probably put that 30 amp or 20, whatever you were talking about for those
Yeah, thinking
RVs
about
there.
changing those to 30s from the
Yeah.
20 amp circuits that are there, yes.
Right.
But if it's just that line because it's not large enough and it's not carrying enough,
Right, it'll try to draw it
amperage,
down and pretty soon it
maybe-
just says, I can't do this and just quits. It
Okay.
just shuts itself off.
I'll get with them and verify that and see what our
Because
wire
that's-
looks like.
that's a quick and easy upgrade. And then we put those 3 or 4 30 amps on the south side of that building.
Mhm.
And then that's an easy upgrade
Yep.
And
that we can take care of.
breakers do get old and some of them need replaced, so.
Yep, we're looking them all over, so. And then
Okay.
I'm getting some prices on getting that put in if we do decide to change it over to 30s, so.
Sure.
I mean, we got the transformer, somewhat of a cost to put that in if we upgrade that, but see what it's gonna cost us to do the actual.
Yeah.
Getting the breakers might be a trick, but
Yeah, I know it.
But with this new information, if it's not necessarily a transformer and we just have to upgrade
Upgrade
the
the
line
wires.
from point A to point B, that's even,
No, but their study did tell us that we were pulling close to our full demand during those couple of months.
okay.
So during the fair in July and the beginning of August, and then during high school rodeo that we generally have Labor Day weekend, we were pulling pretty much what that transformer was designed for, or that's what they told me. So that's why they thought the upgrade to the 75 would
so do
be
you
better.
have that in a
Yeah.
written cost for us? Because that I haven't seen.
I don't. I can get it.
Okay.
in written cost. That's just kind of what we were discussing I was discussing with them on the phone, going back and forth. But I can do that, so.
And then the next question would be, if we change that 50 amp, right,
Yeah, 50 amp up to
to a
75.
75, is that gonna carry, the line gonna carry it anyway?
Yeah, and that's what I'll have to verify, yep, so.
Because if that's a small cable, it's not gonna allow that to go through.
Understandably, yep.
Okay,
Okay,
were you able, I always have to look at Ian, because I'm gonna ask questions were you able to get with the Fair Board on their grant and
so I
as
got
far as?
a hold of them, but I haven't heard back, so I don't know what way they want to go with it. I know Travis had found the thing from the grant or whatever it was, and I think they had a couple questions on it, but I don't know where that went, so
Okay,
I haven't heard back.
all right.
That's all I got.
What else?
That's all I can think of. Got all kinds of stuff going on.
Good.
So.
Okay then,
Appreciate your guys' time.
thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate, you guys made it easy on us today.
Yeah, I know.
Gosh.
And I guess I don't need to come tomorrow now, huh?
Sure, why not be there?
No,
Okay.
I don't think you need to be here tomorrow.
All right.
This will just be under unfinished business, so
Well,
it's
I'll
not-
get with Shaw then. I'll get with Mike over at Shaw and let him know we got this and we're looking to move forward if everything's good on his end, so.
Okay, and then make sure you get the timelines, which will be way ahead of them for Nichole, to make sure that she has
Yep.
plenty of time if we're looking at February.
This
And-
was started before Gerald and I were here. Do we need to bid this out? I mean, this has been bid out?
It was bid out,
Okay.
but it's basically through the grant, so I don't know what they require.
Mike said he's gonna need to update the bid.
Sure,
And just for everyone's information, I'm gonna wanna set up a standing meeting with those who can provide information about the solar and just kind of keep that communication flowing. And I'll let you all know who want to be a part of that, how often that would be and when I have questions. But Justin, I may pull you in.
That's fine.
Okay.
so lastly, before you leave, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
And it relates to the fairgrounds, obviously, but the suppression system, what was the conversation with the board meeting last week for the suppression? Or was that Dustin that went and not Justin?
That must have been Dustin. So, oh, I got you. So their meeting is not until the 12th with Montezuma Water Company. Is that what
Mhm.
that's September 12th?
Oh,
As far as I know, the information they gave me, September 12th is when they do their big meeting, and then they'll let us know what they decide after that.
okay,
And then the other side of it with the insulation, just to throw it out there real quick, there is 6 inches of that cellulose up there on top of that ceiling, which converts to about an R19. I don't know if that's adequate or not. The actual panels above that on the roof are insulated, the pro panel. But I need to try to figure out if that R19, I guess, is sufficient above that ceiling. But that's what's
so
sitting
is
up
the
there.
pipe touching the insulation? Or is
No,
there a
it's
barrier
up above
between
the
it?
insulation, so it sits in that attic space between the cellulose insulation and our roof panels. That's where the pipes are
The roof
sitting
panels are insulated too.
What's their R value
on
on the metal?
the roof.
Yeah,
That I don't know. I was gonna try to see if I could find a couple spare pieces we had and see if it had it wrote on there, but I really don't know what that is yet.
probably less than 10. It's probably 1 or 2 inch.
Yeah, it's probably inch and a half, maybe 2, somewhere in that range.
I can't remember what we did do.
Because that went over,
I'll find out. I can find out.
so we have the roof panels that have insulation on them, then you have a cavity,
Yep,
and then you have your cellulose,
Correct?
and then your pipe is within the cellulose?
Nope, the pipe is
it's above.
in that void area between the cellulose and the roof panels.
Okay, so then in reality is all we have are the roof panels.
Yeah.
We don't, the cellulose doesn't matter.
Correct,
If they're in
that
the
just matters
cavity.
for the room. Yep. Now, it's got insulation also along the walls, the battery mat or whatever, that's got plastic over it, vapor barrier, so I don't know what thickness that is, so I don't know what that is, but, I mean, it's had water sitting in it, so, and nothing's froze. And I don't
Yeah.
know how long it's had water sitting in it, because our valves have gone out, so that pipe filled up with water. And, you know, that's not the way it was designed, but that's kind of how it was for the last several years. So I don't think we'd have an issue.
You may actually have a 3-inch membrane up there, or a 3-inch foam on top of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I got some spare panels sitting out there somewhere that they put on, so I was gonna go try to get a hold of one of those and see if it had some values wrote on it, or do some measuring on it and see if I could find
Just,
something.
is all you have
but-
to do is measure it, and if it's polyiso or polystyrene, is all we have to do is look it up.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
polyiso is gonna be denser, it's gonna have more of an R value than the polystyrene.
Okay.
So just look at it and you'll be able to tell if it's one or the other.
But other than that, I haven't been able to get anybody out there yet to give me a quote for putting vents from those heated rooms up into that space, and then, you know, trying to put some kind of fan in there to blow that, so I'm still working on that. Got a couple phone calls out and just
Okay,
having a hard time getting anybody to come look at it,
yeah,
so.
just stay after it.
Yep.
Okay,
All right,
Thank you all.
I don't have anything else, Ian. Thank you, guys.
thank you, gentlemen.
All right, gentlemen, we are at the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned. Thank you.